Hello, this is Tricia from Trisha's Cards and Crafts. Welcome to another one of my stamping, simple stamping to stepped up Sundays. These are the two cards that I made for today's session, and I'm going to show you how to make the simple stamping version, and then I'll explain how I made the stepped up version. I've also decorated the envelope and the inside as well. I put an paper insert in and stamped on the inside as well. I'll show you a bit more, explain a bit more about that one as we get to it. First of all, I'm going to show you how I made this one. I'm using the Tasteful Touches stamp set, and I've used this sentiment on here. I've used those two images, and really that's all. The inks I've used are on this card I used the Night of Navy, but I'm going to use the Misty Moonlight for this one, for the images. But I also used, for this behind the image, I've used Coastal Cabana and Highland Heather. Okay, but I've used the Dauber. So it's another version of the card that I made last week, just to sort of try and take it a little bit further, I think, or just show another version of it. But this time it's mostly behind, the actual masking is behind the flower, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. Right, first of all we need a card blank, and I've got an envelope here. Here we go, and there's the envelope as well. Okay, I'll use that in a minute. What I've done again, like I did last time, was put my fingers in the ink. You shouldn't leave it open. I cut out a square. I marked out, I folded it in half, marked out 3/4 of an inch from either side, and it left a 1.5 inch gap in the middle, and I cut it down 3/4 of an inch from the centre, so it made a nice 1.5 inch square. And then I've lined it up with the top, trying to leave the same sort of margin on both sides. You could measure it, but I'm not very good at measure. Well, I do measure, but not very often. And you can eyeball it, or if you want to, you're quite welcome to measure it. Once you're happy with where it is on your sheet, on your card, you can then get on with using your inks. Now on this version I did the light on the outside and the dark in the centre, and I think this time I'll just do it the opposite way round. I did it the opposite way round on this card, and I think it stands out a bit more with the lighter colour in the middle. So I'm going to do that one again now. So we start off with the darker one on the outside. So just be careful as you bring it in. Just work your way in from the sides. Again, you don't have to be too heavy-handed, just go as lightly as you can to start with, because you can always build it up. You can't take it away afterwards, so if you start off at the sides, gently work your way inwards, and you can build up the colour as you go along. Now you can work in like I am from the side like this, or you can do it in circular motions. It's completely up to you. And then I'm going to swap over. I think my Coastal Cabana needs a bit of ink. I need to re-ink it, but it's fine, because I don't want it to be too dark when I go in. So let's go into the middle and blend outwards onto the purple. Okay. And I might just go back I don't know, I might have a little bit more if I can. There we go. Just go over a little bit more. There we go. When you're happy, you just put your inks away. There we go. And then we can take off this mask. And you've got the image, the blended image in the centre. Okay, now I'm going to use the flower first, and I'm going to put this about here. There we go. And then what I've done, I've also used a post-it note, and I stamped the image onto the post-it note again, and I then cut around the outside. There we go. And I did use some of this removable tape pen just to make sure that I'll be able to stick it down and it doesn't come off all the time. Now I'm going to stamp over the top with the foliage stamp, but when you're stamping it up, what I would suggest you try and do is not to ink up the bottom part, just in case it comes over the outside of the other side of the masked off image. So what I would suggest, you just do it from the side of the thing. If you've got one of these small stamp pads with your ink that you want to use, then that's easy enough because you can avoid that. But if you've got a large stamp pad like this one, then I would suggest you just do it from the side. Okay, then I'm just going to stamp around the image. If you're doing a mask like this, the only thing I would say to be careful of is that you try and cut just inside the lines of the image itself. I'll show you why in a second. There we go. See if I can just get just the top of that. There we go. That's alright. There we go. And then the sentiment. There we go. Put that on straight. Just saying hello. And then while I've got the stamps out, I just do the envelope. And again, with this, just stamped in off the corner. And when I've done the envelope, I did the front there, but I also did the back on the flap of the envelope. Now just to make sure, just in case of any accidents, I used a post-it note and put it, if I can get it off, underneath the flap, just in case I went over a bit. There we go. And then turn it to face me. I did 1, 2, 3. There we go. So I've done the front and the back. I'll take the post-it note off. So that's my stamping done. And let's just take the There you go. I think that looks quite nice. So that's all I need to do now. Be careful of my fingers. Is fold it in half. There we go. So there's my card and my envelope that I just made, and there's the one. I mean, you can see the outline of the shape better with it dark on the outside, but I don't know which one I prefer. It's up to you. You can do whichever you like. So those are the two different versions. Okay, and that one was with the Night of Navy, so it's a little bit darker, and this one's with the Misty Moonlight. Okay, and just to go through and explain about what I've done with this card, I used post-it notes to mask off the area. So I'd made it bigger than I did on the small note cards, and again I used the purple on the outside and the blue in the centre, and I just did the foliage, stamped the foliage around, and I masked it off. Now this is what I mean about, I don't know whether you can see it very well, I'll try and bring you in a bit. So if you look closely, you can see that there's a little bit of a gap around the outside, and that is because when I put the mask over it, when you put the stamp on, because there's a slight it's slightly higher than the actual piece of card, it doesn't get right to the edge. It's not a problem, it's just if you cut the image just inside the line, then you probably wouldn't have that happen. Okay, I obviously didn't cut that one quite as well as I could have done. I also matted it onto a piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock, and I coloured in a piece of the white crinkle seam binding, and I coloured it with a Highland Heather blender pen, just so that it all comes in together. I also stamped on the inside, as I said, and I stamped on the envelope. I didn't do the back of it, but I did the front. Okay, so that's how I've done these cards. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more of these videos, then please can you click on the subscribe button, and then you'll be notified every time I put another, sorry, I forgot to take it back out, when I upload another video. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed making these cards. I hope you'll enjoy making it yourself. Alright, thank you very much for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.